You are listening to Leadership ReImagined, a White Horse Leadership podcast. For more resources, prayers, or to connect with us on social media, you can visit our website or download the White Horse Leadership app. You can find the direct link to both in our show notes. And if this show encourages you and strengthens your leadership, please consider subscribing and leaving a quick review. It takes just a few minutes and helps us expand our reach to new leaders. Thank you for listening. Well, welcome back to Leadership ReImagined. I'm Audra Haney, and I'm here with Dr. Rick Dunn, and this episode is really special.
It is. I think it's personally important to both of us, and in the White Horse leadership journey and what that means, it's a really critical one. And I think maybe, Audra, just because it's just kind of an uncomfortable truth. Like it's good, and in the end, it brings us to that. You know, the last time we talked about wisdom, and we talked about that's a little bit of a harder thing. Well, this one's going to take us a little deeper. So one thing I would say is if you're driving in your car or taking a walk, that's great. But if you're trying to do three things, multitask, and catch up on Leadership Reimagined, this is not that episode. This is one, it would be my prayer that this is one that you would reflect on and consider, and also would be a guide in terms of your journey of your growth as a leader. So, well, that's created enough intrigue, hasn't it?
Right. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about today's principle.
All right. It wasn't my intent to create intrigue, but I was like, that makes me ask a lot of questions. All right. On the redemptive leadership journey, the hard and the hurt are a gift, providing the resistance that is necessary for leadership growth. So we've got two things right away, like that doesn't feel like a gift, and that word necessary creates a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm. I think this is what really sets White Horse apart, the thinking, the heart, and really the strategy around reframing the hard things that happen in our lives.
Yes, I think the same thing. I think if you say, what's the big reframe, this is really the one. And you know, when the hard and the hurt come, you know, I shared with you recently, I was thinking that life is hard, life hurts, and leadership just intensifies it.
Yes.
And creates more opportunities for it in your own life and the lives of others. And when the hard and hurt come towards a leader, they create a lot of anxiety because they feel very threatening. And the hard thing comes, we talked about last episode, uncertainty. Is this, I don't know, am I strong enough? Can I do this? Why is this coming to me? Why is God allowing this? What if I fail? And then the hurt, nobody gets into leadership because they're like wanting to be, like you don't want to be, no one wants to be hurt. No. But it is a part of the journey. And I think the big reframe in this is this resistance is necessary if we are going to grow in the ways we are called to grow as leaders.
Yeah, it's just the tool the Lord uses.
It is.
And we were talking last night about kind of the analogy of putting weights on and, resistance in so many things in nature, in our own lives, our own bodies.
Yes.
Resistance is the thing that builds strength.
And that's why we talk about being necessary. But it just doesn't, for me, when I hit the resistance that's more than me, my first feeling is weakness, not resistance. Yeah. I mean, not strength. I don't feel strong. I feel weak. And I believe this is a part of what Paul said when he learned that Christ's grace was sufficient for his weakness. I can't enter. Okay, so having something bigger than me that I can't do is, as we talk about, it's the invitation to find more of the strength and the wisdom and the courage that I need from him that I don't already know I have. So we can think of it this way: resistance. If I'm bench pressing 200 pounds and I put 220 on there and I can't quite, it exposes what I can't do. Resistance in leadership exposes what we can't fix, what we can't do, what we maybe not could have anticipated. Sometimes, Audra, the hard is self-inflicted as a leader.
Yeah.
And sometimes we say things or do things, or at least I did, and I do, that actually are the hurt that the person experienced is congruent with my mistake or my words. And that may be the hardest of all. And to think that that's a gift But I've realized that in that moment, if I can surrender and that other person can surrender, we can see God's redemptive work, which, as we always say, is the whole point of the leadership.
Yeah. Yeah. And not the outcomes, not necessarily what it looks like on the spreadsheets and the graphs.
Yes,
of success,
exactly. And the genius of Jesus' leadership. I mean, just if you want to say, what is it about Jesus' leadership that's like the one thing you want to emulate? It's that he always looked to the Father.
Yeah.
That whenever it was hard, whenever it was hurting, and if Jesus had to go through hard and hurt in his spiritual leadership,
we do too.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get exempt from that.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's so powerful is seeing it as this is something that we can grow in, and seeing this as a gift.
Yes.
This is something we can practice. This is something we can constantly reframe. It doesn't mean it'll always feel easier. It probably won't, but we can begin to strengthen our heart and our mind, like you said, to embrace it rather than ignore it or reject it or push it away.
I think it's legit, to your point, I think it's legit to say in prayer, I do not want this. I don't want this to be hard. I don't want to hurt like this. And I trust that this is a part of my growth and that in the end there will be good in me and what happens. And I'm going to trust that enough that instead of like numbing out social media, a substance that you might go to, alcohol, having a big fun experience so you don't have to feel that, shopping, whatever.
Well, we talked about in my own personal life, it's not really any of those things, it's adding on. You know, you experience something hard and it's like, well, let me add on more responsibility, or let me try something new, or
because that gives you the feeling that takes you escape. Thank you. That's the word. That's the perfect word, escape. And so believing and trusting this makes it possible for you not to escape. So sometimes Teresa will say to me, hey, you've been on your phone a lot. Well, that's usually an indication I'm not wanting to think about something. Or I'm a creator, as you experience, and I'll go create something because then that feels better. And this allows us now you can sit in it with the Lord, with the work he wants to do, and actually experience and know, okay, if I'm going to be the leader that I believe God has called and created me to be, learning dependence on him in this is of more value than him taking away the heart and the hurt.
Oh, yeah.
And that, wisdom we talked about last time, you're going to have to tap into God's wisdom on that, because that is, you're not going to get there out of your emotional, just natural emotions, or out of your self-preservation or all the things we do. You're going to get there because you really are leaning into him for dependence.
And a lot of times I think when we numb or we escape, we kind of stunt that growth and maybe delay it.
100%. Oh, absolutely. Like, oh my gosh, yeah. Someone once said that your 60s are the opportunity to pay off the emotional debts of your 30s and 40s.
Wow.
Welcome to the 60s. How fun is that? Well, here's the other side, right? Or to begin to experience the fullness and the richness and of the life that's been cultivated. Yeah. And so someone asked me one time recently, how do you become like a Yoda, like a sage? And, they were saying, I want to be a sage one day. How do I do that? I said, suffering. And they were like, oh. I'm like, yeah, there is no easy path to what it means to be mature, to be able to enter into other people's pain, into all that. There's just no easy path to that. And leadership is about that. And I think at one point you were asking me the question, well, how long does it take? How long does it take to experience that
reframe it?
Yeah, to reframe it.
If you're in this hard moment, how long does it really take to reframe it?
Well, to fully reframe this, the way we're describing it, evidently takes more than 64 years. so because I'm not there yet. But I really believe it has to do with the level of like the pain we're in, the difficult, and also what it is God's after. because if he's after kind of exposing something deep within me, like, so one of my liabilities as a leader would be I'm an empath. I feel other people's feels, which is great, and that's wonderful. It makes me compassionate, engaging, and safer. Not so good is that I will tend to carry those on myself.
Yeah.
And I will feel responsibility to help those not feel like that, right? Well, you can imagine that's not a great leadership quality, particularly when you're making decisions that people are angry and hurt about. You're like, I can't make the right decision and have you feel good about it. That's a dilemma, right? So that's something I had to learn and I had to grow in. But if I had a situation where God was really after that of like, Rick, I want you to learn. I want to set you free from taking responsibility for more than making the decision and trusting me. I want to set you free from taking responsibility for what that person or that group of people or that whole church did with that decision you just made. All right, I want to free you from that. Well, Audra, then that's going to take a while.
Yeah,
like
I'm
going to have several iterations of that. There's going to need to be some pain. C.S. Lewis wrote that, pain is God's megaphone. Like that's him. It doesn't feel like it, but it's actually him saying to me, hey, I want to set you free, but the only way to do this is surgery. And the deeper it is we're working on this, it may be fear, anxiety, pride, a tendency to isolate, it may all those kinds of things. And God is not committed to you feeling comfortable with what he's doing in your life. He's not committed to that. He is comfortable. He is committed to your transformation, to your redemption. And as leaders, he's committed to enabling you, empowering you, equipping you to lead from the strength of who he is. And the only way there is weakness.
So good.
It's so hard, though.
It is so hard. And this is so deeply personal for you. So what are a couple of maybe life stories, experiences that are coming to mind as you're sharing this?
Yeah. So in the White Horse journey, we call it the sacred threshold, that place you come to where you're really being stripped bare. You're in the desert. We use the En-Gedi metaphor, which we won't pull all that out now, but it's in our Refuge and Reservoir podcast that Casey and I do. We kind of unpack that metaphor. And but the imagery is God leads you into the desert to bring you to the springs of life and to the shelter. You find refuge, security. You find a reservoir, abundance in him in the midst of the desert. And the thing I love to do is walk with leaders, walk with men and women into that place you don't want to walk because there can't be life there. This is the most insecure, scarce place in my whole life. And actually, why are we going here?
Yeah.
So you can find out he is your security and he is your abundance. And it's better to be in the desert, in the place he's provided in the desert, to be in the lush without him.
And have your encounters with God, when you look back, have those desert places been the richest?
Yes, but I don't like it.
No, exactly.
Like I want to say yes, but it sounds like I'm comfortable with it. I'm not ever really completely. I don't think.
But I know for me, when I think about the Ebenezers, the mile markers, those are usually the times where he's shown up in the desert.
I think of the most recent one when I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. I say, you have got to be kidding me. We're not doing this. I'm not. I don't know. And just resistance. I'm like, this is not there's no good here. This is just loss. This is grief and loss and tragedy. And so that one took probably 6 months of just sitting in it, being with it, getting wise counsel, working that out with Teresa, praying, seeking the Lord. And where he finally is like, do you see what I wanted to show you? Do you see what I was exposing? And I'm like, yes. You can move through that. I can be life for you there. So anyway, so it goes back to just the amount of time that takes. So 1997, I've written about this. It was the first time when my whole world just completely fell apart on me. everything nothing worked. It was a country music song, but only my wife didn't lead me. I mean, that's the only thing. If she'd left me, I could have made millions just writing about my life, And it was just so disastrous. And then that was 1997. We're recording in 2025. This is not going to be the happiest thing people are going to hear. It's why you can't be multitasking right now.
Right.
It's going to be 20 and 30 years before I understand what that was about. Until I really understand it. And it's going to take 2004, and it's going to take 2018 and 2024 before I fully understand what we were doing there. So talk about a story. The storyline of God's redemption is just, in 1997, I couldn't handle all that, but he just keeps bringing these up, and they were my sacred thresholds, that Engedi experience where this is desert, 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 and then there's life, but the life's in him. It's not in my leadership.
Right.
I remember in 2018, I've written about this, but I went to a chair of our elder board. I said, hey, Danny, I said, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. And my marriage, it's not my wife. She's wonderful. It's not the church. The church is thriving. It's not the elders. I don't have anything to blame it on me. I'm just not okay. And I thought, well, this is cruel. Like, we're finally kind of making some ground here. My life's really good. But man, the Lord is after some things. After parts of my story I didn't know, understand, bringing things out, just like what he did with me. Sends Moses back to Egypt. You got to be kidding me. What are we doing here? Why would you send me to that? Or when Jacob goes and is going to meet Esau, what fresh horror is this? And
not how we would have written or planned it out.
Never, nothing. No. But I look back on that now, and you and Corey have had an opportunity to spend time with Teresa and I in our workshop that we've taught. You've traveled with. We've gotten to know each other at a level, which is a great joy to Teresa and I. We love y'all so much. But there's depth in our marriage. It wouldn't have been there if it hadn't been for those things. And I look back at 2018, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think without 2018 and 19 I could have led through 2020.
Oh, yeah.
And so what feels like the oppressive hand of a God you can't trust is the gentle hand of a father who is all about exposing your distrust in that particular place, in that particular way, so then you can learn to deepen in your trust and intimacy with him, which is, again, the whole point.
Yeah.
The whole point is not to make your leadership successful in work. The whole point is to transform you as a child with him. And so that's why it's necessary. It's not necessary if your goal is just to build big things and do big things and have people be impressed with you. Actually, it works against you.
Yeah, and I think in our culture today, we're seeing a lot of charismatic leaders, a lot of external success.
Yeah.
Everything's working out. But where's the character? Where's the Christ-likeness, the kindness, the patience, the gentleness? That's so rare in our culture.
Yes.
And I think a lot of those attributes that are in the refining fire we have to go through those have to be cultivated in suffering.
Yep. Well, the pastor, Artie, is a wonderful leader, leading the church that I pastored for 22 years. I told him when he started, I said, I need you to understand how seductive this is.
Yeah.
I just need you to know this is, and you must pay attention. So people ask me, why do you wear the extra wedding band on my right ring finger? And I tell people the story. It was a time when the church it was hard. It was not good. I mean, as I've shared in other places, 60% of the people left immediately because I became the lead pastor. And it was a large church, so 60% of people is a lot of people. And it's just the pain of the whole thing. And my whole life I had been able to be pretty darn successful at whatever I did.
That rejection is overwhelming, I'm sure.
Yes, and I'm internalizing, I'm going through all this kinds of stuff. And that was when I realized I really want this church to work because this church working says something about me that I want to be true. And so I've started wearing this wedding band to remind myself it's the bride of Christ. And the church is, I'm never to flirt with the church. I'm never to seduce the church. I'm never to be seduced. And that metaphor was really powerful for me because I wanted to treat Fellowship Church, the people of Fellowship Church, the way I wanted my wife to be treated by someone else. And that really affected how I approached that. But that came through exposing that, and that this is what happens. Wonderful, that flawed people, just we're all flawed, but wonderful, flawed leaders gain quick or massive success and get seduced into all that is, and then you no longer have to deal with what's underneath.
Yeah.
We were talking about this before. You've got enough resources. You don't have to deal with all that. You've got to. You have so many people who think you're, Jesus. Jesus might be at the right hand, but you're at the left hand. And you have all that, and you start buying into that. Now you don't have to deal with your pain. You don't have to, and then none of the story, none of the work, none of the redeeming your story we talk about, none of it happens. And Audra, there's not. I mean, I think you and Corey are amazing. I love you. I'm so proud. Just love everything. But you're not okay if you're not doing that work. Yeah. You are capable. Corey is. We are all capable. And the pain and the hard and the resistance is God allowing us to enter into the kind of thing that's going to keep us safe and keep us strong in the long run.
And we talked about at some point we're handing this over to a new generation. And so if we're married to it, if we're seduced by it, the destruction that could have on our lives in a time that's supposed to be incredibly fruitful.
That is so true.
That is a huge damaging temptation.
It is. And so it's just this, look, as we said, life's hard, life hurts, leadership intensifies it. You get exposed. You are going to get exposed through the pain and the heart and the hurt. What you do with that when you're 40, 50, 60, what you do with that moment under that pain and pressure, you surrender into what is the gift he can give me. Are you double down on your strategies? What happens in that razor's edge moment will determine your legacy. So it absolutely determines your legacy. So White Horse and the journey we're on together, we invite people like to go on the Engedi journey, to go in the desert, to see that there is a sacred threshold there. But you will not, Audra, you will not go through it unless you experience the Spirit of God walking you through, Jesus standing with you, the Father embracing you. We must know He's with us, or we will stop short and find some other way to make ourselves feel better.
Talk to me about navigating all the hurt, the hard, doing it in a vulnerable way. But I think with leadership, we have this unique fishbowl experience and also kind of a dehumanizing experience. So what is that? How do you do that well when you have those dynamics at play as well?
Yeah, and I think it's worse in the moment that we're recording this because it's like people use social media. They use all kinds of things to say just nasty things about college athletes. I mean, the things that are said about these kids, they're, I respect that they're young adults, but they're young adults and the way they're treated. And so it's a little bit like you can just take shots at people in our culture. So I think that intensifies it. I think also some of the examples you were talking about, people don't trust leaders like they used to.
So true.
And I understand why. Like, I'm like, I always said if, when I was on an airplane, if I just didn't want to talk to somebody, I just say, hey, what do you do for a living? And then they said, what do you do for a living? I said, I'm a Southern evangelical megachurch pastor. Done. Yeah, that's it. I know who you are. I know what you're about. So I always felt like I had this what do I do?
Well, and we're getting to, I think, a place in our culture where any kind of change at all, people don't like change. So we are knee-jerking to distrust.
It must be something nefarious. Yep. And so all that to say to your question, we talked about this in the last episode. We are so many voices speaking about and to the leader. And his voice must be the greater voice. There are so many ways in which we are critiqued as leaders on whether or not we're alleviating other people's pain or difficulty. Or if something we lead and do has hurt and heart in it, then something must be wrong. You see, that people are just operating off that. And so if we are able to enter into our own pain, our own hurt, our own heart, we're able to do that, we are much stronger at being able to stand with other people and not seeing their pain as a threat, not seeing their heart or their hurt as a threat, and therefore not trying to make that okay or absorb it. So I really believe that the way we walk through it when it's coming at us, and quite honestly, I always say to pastors particularly, I say, you're going to bear the weight of other people's immaturity. But every now and then they're going to bear the weight of your immaturity. So true. So let's just be honest, right?
That's true.
But when people try to put that onto you, it's like, I'm not carrying that. I'm just not going to carry that. But I will walk with you in your pain. If you come to me and tell me that, well, you did this, and I'm like, I'll listen to that. And if there's something for me to own, I will own that. It feels painful to own that, right? It feels like I want to self-protect, but I need to let the heart and the hurt fall where it needs to, because sometimes I've just said and done things that weren't good or weren't helpful. Not intentionally. I wasn't trying to harm people. I wasn't malicious. I was just being human.
Human being, yeah.
I'm just being human. And so if we then become more comfortable with our own humanity and our own life and we're able to sit with other people's, and then we're also able, which is the thing I've had to learn, being an empath, to let them walk out the door carrying whatever they choose to carry with them and not carry it for them.
So good. And you just can't do that in leadership. It's too many people.
You just can't.
And we have found that people's opinions or perspective changes. So trying to keep up with how people are feeling is pretty futile. Well,
this is not the episode, but maybe we'll talk about this later. One of my theories is everybody in your church organization that is deeply invested unconsciously tries to recreate their dysfunctional family system. And the church is designed not to make you happy, but holy.
So good.
And increase your holiness. And so actually, let's bring all of our dysfunction in and see how we can have it redeemed, not how we can have it reinforced.
So good.
But remember, as a leader, you're taking people where they don't want to go. And if you're going to take them where they don't want to go, then a lot of things are going to get exposed. Well, what's the best preparation for that? For you to see the Lord take you to places you don't want to go and learn. That's where I am in my life right now. Like, I've been through this. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I had a really good friend just lost his wife of 44 years. And I'm watching God show up. So the fact you didn't like how I presented that message is like really doesn't have the sting when I watch God show up for my friend. When he's shown up through infertility, through challenging life stages, when you were talking about miscarriages and pain, like in part of our conversations, like at some point, and there's this place in Lord of the Rings where, in the book, not the movie, where the Dark Riders come by and they're just so afraid of the Dark. And then at the end of the book, they're like, I've been to Mordor. What the
exposure
heck?
therapy.
Yeah, exposure therapy. Nice. Okay, that is a part of what happens for a leader.
Yes, yeah.
I recently was texting a leader, you're doing the hardest thing you've ever done yet. I don't know if it'd be the hardest thing you'll do. It's the hardest thing you've ever done yet. Therefore, here are some things to be aware of when you're going through the hardest thing you've ever done as a leader. And the pain and the hurt and the hard that comes with that. But I said, can you imagine what the things you were worried about last year look like now?
Yeah.
They're totally different. And that is a part of the strengthening of the resilience that comes from the hard and the hurt.
Yeah. I love the quote, a man can't step in the same river twice because the river and the man are both different.
Yes. Thank God. Thank you, Jesus.
I think it is true. We arrive when these things come back around. We're so different.
Yes.
That we can still struggle. They can still be hard, but we find ourselves strengthened and different.
That's right. And it's just a necessary journey. To that, C.S. Lewis writes, Lucy says, Aslan, you're bigger. And then he replies, that is because you are older. And and the imagery that he brings out is that she gets older and he gets bigger.
Yeah.
Well, Audra, that is the essence of what we're talking about.
And I love it. He says, the more you grow, the bigger you'll find me.
Yes.
And I think the key is we're not just older, but if we let the suffering and the pain grow us, truly grow us, then we'll find him bigger.
100%. And that is the uncomfortable truth of this episode. And it's true for leaders. And I don't want it to be true, but it forces us back to the question. The question is, is he God and is he good? I mean, those two questions. Is he God? Is he good? That's the garden question, right? That's what we have to come back to every time. And the flesh agrees with the serpent. He's not God enough. He's not good enough. So therefore, I must take control of my security and my abundance. And the Spirit is saying he actually is that good. And you don't have to be God. And only the necessary passages of hard and hurt, suffering, the pain of that, only in that place will you ever come to understand how good and how God he really is. I sat with pastors we had a network of church planting pastors. We were sitting in a meeting in 2020 during COVID, sitting 6 feet apart in churches that weren't meeting. I mean, just so many things. You remember this whole thing's going on. And I listened to everybody talked about their fallback job. Everybody was dreaming. One guy wanted to drive like bulldozers and big equipment, you know. The other guy was going to do a lawn service. We were all daydreaming of what would be better than this, right? Yeah. And as Teresa and I have shared with you and Corey and many others, like we have some hard in our relationship and hard in our leadership that extended way beyond what I would like. I wished I was I was in my 40s and I figured all this out and I didn't. And I would say I don't want that to be discouraging for people, but it took me a while to understand in some of these places that he was God and he was good. I would never have gotten there, ever, if it hadn't been for that. I would never have known him the way I know him. And if I look back on my 22 years in that particular leadership role, the headline is not, and there's some wonderful things, and I think, by all measures, that was great. I certainly wouldn't be talking about leadership if I didn't know how to lead, but if I look at the headline, it's actually how I was transformed. That was the whole headline. And in the same way that 42 years into marriage, I just know Teresa at such a level and enjoy her at such a level and appreciate her at such a level. The same thing is true with the Lord. And this is the ultimate gift of leadership, is it's guaranteed to be hard and it's guaranteed to hurt. And it's going to be how he delivers himself to us so that, yes, we can lead better, but more so we can be loved deeper.
So good. And I think in that's where we can find that true rejoicing in our sufferings.
That's what the rejoicing is, isn't it? About what this is actually doing.
Outside of the understanding of what God's really up to and what you're describing, it's really hard to find that rejoicing, but we can truly find that rejoicing through this framework.
Yes, and that kind of like wisdom, we talked about the wisdom of God last time, that kind of wisdom, that's only going to be, you're only going to access it when you need it. And the only way to need it is to need it, right? We've talked about this in this particular context. There's also, it's easy to get bitter. It's easy to get cynical. When I run into leaders who've been at it 10, 15 years and I listen to them expound on all the things and people they blame, it makes me really sad. And so anger, discouragement, unforgiveness, anxiety, all the things, they're part of the journey. It's just, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with them? And the most natural thing to do over time is to start self-protecting and then that's where the bitterness and the cynicism come in. We just must stay engaged with the Lord and with our people. And for me, it was learning it is not the job of these people to take care of me. It is not the job of these people to validate me. It is not the job of these people to tell me I'm a great leader. It is not. My role is to love them and lead them according to the wisdom that he's provided, the resource he's provided, and that has to be enough. And I feel like people often, Audra, get into ministry context and leadership thinking, oh, this is how I'll find community, and this is how you might. You probably won't, but you might. You got to find that elsewhere. You got to do that work elsewhere. You got to be very intentional. The larger the leadership context, the more public it is, the more intentional you got to be about how you handle your private life. The bigger your scope of leadership, the more time you have to spend away from it, reflecting on it, making sure you see it for what it really is and that you're really hearing from God. The longer you go and have increased success, the more you have to realize how at risk you are for being deceived. So you just have to live like that. And then I had early success in one arena of leadership in my 30s. Then God broke me apart and broke me down and rebuilt me into my 40s. And now when I see people who are really gifted and really effective and really successful in spiritual leadership contexts early, I mean, just because I'm an empath, because I love them, I just want to get a hold of them early and just say, hey, whoa, that, yes, I love that your church is growing. I love that your organization is thriving. I love that this magazine wants to talk to you, or you're getting invited to these places, because, hey, performance is how you get invited to those rooms, right? It's you don't get invited to the important room because you're a good guy or a good gal. You get invited because you performed. And while you're in there, oh my goodness, be so careful. Because if you latch onto that and it becomes your identity, then when the hard and the hurt come, you'll just fight harder for that identity. And we need to be releasing that identity, because none of us is God and none of us are good apart from him. And quite honestly, you know this, Alder, we've talked about it, you don't need any of that stuff.
No. Yeah.
You don't need any of it. And to the degree you think you do, you're at risk spiritually. And so these hard things, they're there to help call us back. But we can't pray it away. We can't, we don't shame ourselves. We don't do that. We just get into the reality of being grounded in the Word and the Spirit and the relationships and in community. And that's who we are. And then we just live out of that. And I'm kind of going on long here, but let me just add one more thing. The worst thing that could happen to you is not that this fails. It feels like it to a leader. This is over. If I fail, it's over. I've got to, at least I did. I used to thought, man, I got to get everything right, because if you don't get this right, you don't get it. Well, I've failed. And I have many stories of like, well, that didn't work. Yeah. Or at least in those people's eyes, it didn't work. They would actually tell a different story.
Depends on who you ask.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've got people who tell a very different story than I would tell. And so it's really, Paul said, just let people look at us like this. 1 Corinthians 14. We're stewards and of the mysteries of God and servants. And above all, it's required of a servant to be faithful. And at the end of a day, a year, 22 years, 64 years of life, if you can say, to the degree I understood by his grace, I sought to be faithful, he's going to be like, that's all I ever wanted.
Amen.
That was it. That was it. And so the pain and the hurt are the places that we get to be faithful without the external rewards and get to find out he's actually what we wanted. That's actually what we wanted anyway. And that's a good place to be.
He's showing us that over and over again. It's so good.
Yeah.
There's one big takeaway, one big thing you want the leaders to leave with today. What would that be?
Lean into it. I know. I mean, I'm not saying that flippantly. I know how hard this is. I know what it's like. I know what it's like for people to write letters to my family on how bad of a leader I am. I know what it's like to be accused of things that are just so not true. I know what it's like to do something stupid and everybody pay consequences and have to own it. Everybody does stupid sometimes. I know what it's like to pour your heart out to invest and care for someone or some group and have them turn on you or accuse you or betray. I know. And you're like, so I'm not saying this out of like some theoretical framework of, well, lean in because but that is not coming at you to destroy you. This is what Paul tried to say in Romans 8. I'm convinced nothing can separate me from the love of God. And this is a guy that's been snake bit, shipwrecked, prison, and he's like, I mean, all kinds of things, but it's not going to separate me from him. Well, how do you know? How do you come to know that it won't separate you? Because you get things that you think are going to separate you from him and they don't. So that thing coming at you is not for your destruction. It is for your redemption. And I know this is a long one thing, but all right.
It's important.
Will it work out? Will it be your success? Will it be people, they'll come back. They'll one day, maybe. Maybe. But release it as being the point.
Yeah.
Because it's not.
It's just a vapor, really.
It's just that. And when you walk off that platform, I literally handed a baton to RD, and you walk off of that platform, and it's and it's no longer any. Somebody asked me, well, how does that feel? Like, is it exciting? Because I'm like, well, of course I'm thankful for the fruit. Of course I'm thankful for the transition. The only thing that's satisfying to me is that journey was how I learned that he loved me.
So good.
That's the only thing. And I know it sounds so easy, but I just encourage people to sit with that, pray about that, consider that maybe that's the only thing that actually matters here, because there's so much freedom in that truth. So much.
Good, right? Well, why don't you pray us out today?
I will. I might have to have you if I start crying. But I'll start. You pick me up. You got me if I thought. This is just not easy stuff in a podcast, Lord. We recognize we could never fully represent the wholeness of this, and so we haven't tried to do that. But I do hope that your Spirit will use these stories, this conversation, this podcast to invite leaders, to cause them to feel invited into this desert place, this broken place, this this hurt. Of course, Lord, we want them to be able to have good boundaries and not unnecessarily be abused or any of those things. But in terms of like that hard thing that they may be avoiding, that painful thing that they may be resenting, that place where they're questioning, or is he really that good? Is he really that much of God? Because I think I need to step in and handle this on my own. We all have those places, Lord. Whatever someone may be in that place, I pray, Lord, just a moment to, as we said in our last episode, pause to hear your wisdom, to remember the truths we've been talking about your love, and lean towards the gift that cannot yet be seen in what feels like the threat. Trusting that that's just how good you are and how much of a God you are and how much better it is to learn to live in your story versus trying to make one up for ourselves. And we just ask for grace to do that. And for Audra and I, we thank you for the privilege of being able to talk and share and have people listen. And I pray, Lord, that the things we've shared, the authenticity of that will be that it's really our journey. This is actually what it's like. And that you will encourage others, the listeners, to know that, hey, you're okay. You're secure. You have abundance. And you may not know it, feel it, or experience it yet, but he's there. We pray that they'll know that you're there. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you in the next episode.